The Path to Authenticity is brought to you by GIA Miami. Founded by world-class mental health experts, GIA provides advanced care for difficult-to-treat conditions, including anxiety, medication-resistant depression, and obsessive-compulsive disorder. Using state-of-the-art methods, GIA can help people recover from conditions when more traditional approaches can't. Dr. Antonello Bonci has assembled an expert team serving international clientele in a modern and resplendent Miami setting. If you or someone you love is suffering from depression, anxiety, OCD, or other mental health concerns, call GIA at 833-713-0828. You can learn more about GIA by clicking the link in the show notes or by visiting giamiami.com.
Thank you for listening to The Path to Authenticity. My name's Tom Gentry. I think of this show as the opposite of small talk. You'll hear real conversations with real people who know who they are. We talk about what makes them who they are, how they became who they are, and how we might become truer expressions of who we are. If this is your first time here, thanks for checking it out. If not, thanks for coming back. I'm Tom Gentry, and this is The Path to Authenticity, episode 196 for October 11th, 2022. And this is another installment of the 20 questions format with a guy named Pete Donnelly. He is an officer in the British military and a magician. And this is another acquaintance of mine from Clubhouse. I recorded this about a year ago, so I've been sitting on it for a while. But it's a good conversation. I think you'll enjoy it. So here you go. 20 questions with Pete. If your life were a novel, what would be the title?
Oh, that's an interesting question, and I'm probably going to need a minute to think of that. If my life was a novel, what would the title be? I'd say Crazy, Reckless, and Dangerous.
Okay, that'll work. Where were you born?
Originally, I was born in the north of England, in a place called Carlisle, which is up in Cumbria. And then I lived up until I was 16 in a little town in the Lake District in Cumbria called Keswick, which is a beautiful place. And I lived there until I was 16, and that's the age I joined the British Army.
Wow. And where's the place you call home?
I call home Kent, in the southeast of England. So I have a girlfriend and family down in Kent, and I currently work in North Yorkshire. So there's quite a commute, but in my line of work, you go wherever the army send you. So Monday to Friday, I work in North Yorkshire, and then on a Thursday or a Friday, I travel 5 hours south for the weekend.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Initially, when I grew up, I wanted to be a police officer. There was Keswick's quite a small town in the Lake District, and there was a police officer that got involved with a lot of community stuff, and he was quite an inspiring character. and he made me want to become a police officer. And then, as you grow up and you get into your teens and you get a little bit naughty and maybe get into a little bit of trouble with the police, that changes,
loses its luster.
Yeah, and not just loses its luster, but after getting into a little bit of trouble with the police, that option possibly wasn't available. So then, the next best thing was the army.
Mm. And what is your profession in the Army? What do you do?
So I'm an engineer. I spent a long time as a soldier. Originally, I actually joined into the artillery. So, I was in the parachute artillery. I used to jump out of planes and fire big guns. When I say big guns, ones that go 17 kilometers and fire 105 millimeter shells, artillery shells. I then had a short break, and I went back to the army after a couple of years in Civilian Street, and I joined the Royal Engineers. So I retrained as an engineer, specifically a plant operator mechanic. So operating all the big plant machinery, and as well as doing combat engineering. So, as a combat engineer, you specialize in blowing things up. You're the Army's demolition experts. You build bridges, you blow bridges up, you clear minefields. As an engineer, it's quite a wide array of tasks that you're set, and you have the combat engineering side, and then the structural side as well. So, in a wartime situation, the engineers would be the first ones in, because they'd be in, clearing the minefields for the infantry to get across, building the bridges for the infantry to get across the rivers. So we're the first ones in, but then, once the operation finishes and the warfighting finishes, we're the last ones out, because we're the ones who stay back to build, rebuild the infrastructure. But nowadays, I drive a desk. I did my time as a soldier, got to Warrant Officer Class 1, which is as high as you can go as a soldier in the British Army. They then offered me a commission to become an officer, so I'm now a captain, and I'm the logistics officer. So, yeah, unfortunately, the majority of my time is spent behind the desk, but I still get out and dive, because I specialised in underwater engineering about 20 years ago. So we're the equivalent for the Army. We're the equivalent of a civilian commercial diver. So we do any underwater engineering task, concrete in, explosives, hydraulic tools, chainsaws, jackhammers, that type of stuff.
Interesting. So what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Well, the only other profession I'd really like to attempt is one that I'm already doing, because I may be full-time in the Army, but I'm also a professional magician, and I run my magic business alongside my Army career. So I specialize on that side of house. I specialize in close-up magic, but I also do stage magic, hypnosis. And it's a big passion of mine. I've loved doing magic for many, many years, and I kind of juggle that around my Army career.
So tell me about close-up magic. What does that mean exactly?
So there's different genres of magic, and close-up magic is, what you would get if you're at a corporate function or a wedding, and people come around the tables and they're doing magic, right to your face, close up. Card tricks, coin magic. There's lots of different types of props you could use, but anything that's, you're right next to the magician and things are happening right in front of you. Sometimes you'll see things on TV that is TV magic. It can only be done on TV. Mm-hmm. But close-up magic is the stuff that happens right in front of your very eyes, and sometimes in your hands. And for me, I think it's more powerful because it's happening, right in front of you, and it leads people, to not. They know it's not a camera trick. They know it's,
right.
It's right there in front of your face.
Okay. What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote. Now, being in the military, there's lots of quotes that I like, but my favorite one is I'm trying to remember who it was by. I think it might have been Churchill, and it goes something along the lines of people sleep peaceably in their beds at night only because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf. And I think I'm right in saying it was Churchill that it might have been George Orwell. Actually, I can't quite remember. I'll have to Google it afterwards. Tom.
Sounds like something either of them might have said, but I would bet Churchill. Okay. What's your preferred form of creative expression?
Well, that's an easy question. That would have to be magic.
Anything else? Do you write or any artistic endeavor that you take part in?
Not really, no.
But performance. Performance, I guess.
Performing. I do a little bit of acting. I've played the dame in pantomime. I don't know if you have pantomimes the same as we do over in the States, but we have pantomimes in the UK, usually throughout Christmas, and it's like a funny. Do you have them over there?
Well, they exist, but it's probably not nearly as common. Yeah, I think I hear more jokes about pantomimes than I see pantomimes.
Yeah, so it's like they'll take a well-known kid's story usually, and they'll put that into a stage show, but with a lot of comedy in there, and the jokes are kind of innuendo that would. It's family friendly, but the jokes are kind of innuendo that would go over the kids' heads. And I played the pantomime dame. I was Red Riding Hood's granny.
Oh, wow. Pete's claim to fame. Red Riding Hood's granny.
Yeah, I won't show you the photos.
Okay,
Tom.
please.
I don't make a very good looking woman.
Okay. I'm not shocked. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, so I have two that are on par that fight for my top slot, and I can never separate them. And that is the original Top Gun with Tom Cruise and Men of Honor, Cuba Gooding Jr. with the American military diving, which is based on a true story with the life of Carl Brashear, a Navy chief diver who lost his leg.
Okay. Do you have a favorite song?
Yes, I do actually. So, the Kings of Leon, "Sex on Fire," and the reason that song is my favorite is, Christ,
how could you not like a song called "Sex on Fire"?
Yeah, I mean, I love the band Kings of Leon, and their first album is my favourite. But my late wife surprised me and bought me tickets to go and see the Kings of Leon at the O2 in London just before she died. So that was the last band that we ever got to see. So that song is my favourite, and that's why.
I'm sorry for your loss. Okay. How about a favorite work of art?
I'm not massively into art.
What about a favorite book? Favorite book?
Oh, favorite book. Now, yeah. So I have a lot of magic books. I like reading autobiographies and of course magic books. And I'm stood looking at my bookshelf as you ask that question, and it's full of magic books. But there's one or two actually that come in a set that's quite special to me. It's an American magician. He's passed away now. God rest his soul. He passed away last year. Famous magician over there called Johnny Thompson.
I've heard you talk about him before, but I don't know who it is.
Used to go by the name of the great Tomsini or Tomsoni.
Okay.
And he had an act in Vegas for many, many years with his wife. And I had the pleasure of meeting him a few years ago, obviously before he passed away. And on my bookshelf there, I've got The Magic of Johnny Thompson, volumes 1 and 2 in a nice display box, and they're both signed by Johnny. So yeah, they're my favourite books.
Okay, who do you admire most?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Very difficult question. Because it's not always someone famous that you admire most. And I suppose you admire different people at different times throughout your life. And I'd actually say it's got to be a friend of mine who lost both legs and his right arm in an improvised explosive device in Afghanistan. So he's a triple amputee. Once he came round and had prosthetics fitted, he then went on to cycle in the Invictus Games on a one-handed recumbent bike. He then went on to cycle professionally for Team Sky. And unfortunately, while he was training out in, I believe it was somewhere in Spain, on one of the sort of Spanish islands, he had an accident where he went head-on with a lorry. And has had multiple operations since that, and obviously this was after he'd lost 3 limbs, and yet he's still knock after knock he still manages to pick himself up and carry on. And it's incredible what that guy's been through, and yet still manages to pick himself up and come back fighting every single time.
So over the course of your life, what is an issue with which you have repeatedly struggled?
Grief and loss. I briefly mentioned earlier I lost my late wife 12 years ago, but I went through a period in life where I thought anybody that got close to me was going to get hurt or die, because it started off in 2004 when I lost my dad in an accident. He fell off a ladder, and he was a painter and decorator, fell off a ladder and died from a complicated fracture at the base of the skull. 12 months later, we lost my wife's dad. Not long after that, a friend of mine got blown up and killed in Afghanistan, very good friend of mine. Then another friend got blown up and killed in Afghanistan. And then the wife died in a rock climbing accident. We'd been married for a long, long time and been together since we were age 15. So we'd been together 18 years. We'd been together longer. I'd lived longer with her than I had without. So that was quite a painful thing to go through. And then my mate got blown up and lost 3 limbs. Another mate got blown up, lost 2 limbs. And I throughout all this, I started believing that it was anybody that got close to me was going to get hurt or die. And I'll be honest, and I don't tell many people this, I turned to alcohol for quite a while, certainly after the wife died. I was drinking heavily for about 10 months. And it was a good group of friends of mine that sort of came into my office and said, "Enough's enough, big lad. It's time to stop boozing." And luckily, they did that before I ended up actually having a problem with alcohol and becoming dependent on it. So, and it was that point when them 3 guys came into my office while I was at work that sort of turned a corner for me.
We need people like that in our lives, don't we?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, the good thing for me is that that's enabled me to, you know, help other people now through, you know, close personal grief. And I've now mentored a few, well, probably 6 or 7 people. There's a young soldier that, you know, he'd come from a really difficult background. You know, he was in and out of foster care as a young child. And, you know, he was growing up on a life of crime, sorted himself out, got himself a girlfriend, joined the army, you know, really turned his life around. And then out of the blue, his girlfriend, who he was about to propose to, suddenly died through the night with adult sudden death syndrome. So I kind of took him under my wing. And, you know, at the same time, a boss of mine who was senior to me in the army, his wife died after having a liver transplant. So, yeah, I've managed to take a number of people under my wing and you know, sort of give them the benefit of my experience in that area. Because, well, I mean, let's be honest, I've got quite a lot of experience in that area.
So I love that. And it's, you know, kind of always the silver lining with the things we go through in life, right? But what, I mean, you mentioned that you drank heavily for a while, but what did you do to work through all that grief and all that trauma? Was there any, I mean, did you get psychotherapy? Did you do anything like that?
No, I'm quite old. Well, I was quite old school, and you know, of the mindset that, you know, I'm a soldier. I can handle anything, and that is, you know, as we know, that's the mindset that causes a lot of people a lot of problems. But that's the mindset that I had at the time. So I didn't have any counselling or anything. You know, initially, through that loss of the wife, I threw myself into alcohol and work. So if I wasn't working, I was drinking. If I wasn't drinking, I was working. And then when I stopped drinking, I threw myself into sport and I started racing triathlons on the Ironman 70.3 circuit. And, you know, most of my time was taken up either training or racing triathlons. I've got quite a addictive personality, and if I get into something, I focus, you know, 110% of all my efforts on that area. So, you know, I raced triathlons for a number of years, and then I suppose I stopped that and I got back into magic, and then, you know, everything went back into my magic performances. I just focused on different things, which ultimately it meant that it took me a much longer to deal with it than, you know, had I have addressed the problems and the grief and tackled it head on, because I just hid my feelings and didn't face them. And I'd say it took me probably about 3.5 years to actually come to terms with the loss of my wife.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all process grief differently. And I don't know, when you describe your relationship with her and the span of time, I mean, it seems pretty commensurate, right? I mean, I think it'd probably take me that long too if I were you. But all right, shifting gears here a little bit. In childhood, who was your celebrity crush?
You're probably never going to have heard of this woman, and if you Google it, you'd have to Google a very early image to see why. Because if you Google her name now and you see her, you'll be like, really? It was, and I was only actually reminded of this about 2 weeks ago by my mother. It was Rula Lenska.
RULA?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
She was an actress. Yeah. Well, there you go.
I found her. I'm looking for the young ones. All right. Okay, I can see that. Yeah, you're right. I never had heard of her.
Yeah.
That looks like, I see a bikini photo that probably was a pretty, you know, there weren't a lot of bikini photos back then. That's going back a ways, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's just say I joined the army at 16 and I've been doing that for 29 years. So yeah, I'm quite old.
Yeah. Okay. What historical figure would you most like to meet?
Oh, so I've got two really. One would have to be Churchill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just, obviously with the military background and that, yeah, Churchill would be one of them. And the other one would be Harry Houdini.
Mm.
Obviously being a magician, I'd love to meet Houdini. Plus I work at Houdini's Magic Bar in, they have two sites in Kent and I work at both of them. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What natural gift or ability would you most like to possess?
Natural gift or ability? That would have to be, I'd like to be able to sing. The one thing I can't do in performance-wise, I do a bit of acting, I do a lot of magic. And when I was doing the pantomimes, we were 5 weeks into rehearsals when I found out that I had to sing. And I had to do 3 solos and a duet in front of a packed theatre every night throughout December. And trust me, I cannot sing. If you hear me sing, it'll make you want to clap your hands and stamp your feet all over my face.
Okay. What do you consider your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement? Do you know what? I've achieved quite a lot in my lifetime with the military career. I was awarded a meritorious service medal last year in the Queen's birthday honours. But I think my greatest achievement was actually this year with the birth of my daughter. I'm 45 and only just had my first child with my partner Laura. We had a little girl, Sophia Ruby. She's only 3 months now, and yeah, she's absolutely beautiful. I know every parent says it about their kids, but she's absolutely beautiful, and I never ever thought that I would have children. So yeah, my greatest achievement is being, Laura did most of the work. I'll be honest, but my 30 seconds, was part of her creation. So.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to chat, my mom was 43 when she had me and my dad was 48. So, and I don't know a lot of people who had parents that age when they were born. So, food for thought. It's definitely a different experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, ideally, if, I would have had children in my 30s. Mm-hmm. But actually, I think, there are some benefits to being a little bit older. You're more settled, you know yourself more, mm-hmm. You can provide a better life, than, or certainly I could provide a better life now than I could have done, 10, 15 years ago.
Well, and you're more at ease. You don't have all the same neuroses that you do in your 20s, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what quality do you admire most in a person?
Honesty. It's one of the things I always say to my guys at work. When I get a new member of staff in and I interview them when they first come in, I'll always say to them, it doesn't matter what mistakes you make. And if you mess up, just put your hands up. We can sort out nearly all problems unless somebody's died. We can, right. We can fix things. Just put your hands up and be honest, and I will have your back. But the minute you lie to me, that's it. You've lost my support.
What's something you'd like to learn more about?
Fatherhood.
Yeah. Well, you're about to, Pete.
Yeah. I'm 3 months in, and my partner Laura, she has 3 other children. of different ages. She's got Lily who's 16, Joe who's 9, and Ella who's 5. So I've kind of, been thrown in at the deep end, and muddling through. And Laura says, "Oh, you're doing a great job," but sometimes you question yourself whether you're getting it right. And I'm a little bit stricter than Laura, and it's like, am I too strict? Is that because of my military background? Do I need to chill out a bit? It's a difficult balance, isn't it?
Welcome to parenthood. That's
especially with the other 3, because they're not my children. They've got their own dads. They are all still actively seeing their dads regularly. And you're on that kind of sticky ground. As we're not married, so I'm not even a step parent. It's it can be difficult, but it's also very, very rewarding.
Yeah, and I lived that and underestimated it. How difficult it was to be a stepfather. And I thought just because I love them that everything would be fine and blah, 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 but it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. But one of the things I was really intentional about during that time was just to be really clear. I know I'm not your father, but I will always treat you as if you were my own, and just tried to make that really, really clear, and
yeah, absolutely. And it's like I say, it's a fine line. It's a fine balance of, getting that right, isn't it? Because they have got their own fathers, and in the case of Laura's 3, they see their fathers, every week, and it is a balancing act at times.
Yeah. What do you wish more people knew about you?
It's a difficult question because I'm quite an open book, and those people that know me, know most things, because I don't hide anything. In business terms, I suppose, I'd like more people to know that I'm a magician and how good I am at doing that, because obviously that would lead to more bookings and ultimately more money. In personal terms, I suppose what I was talking about earlier of me mentoring people who've gone through grief and close personal loss, because if more people knew what I'd been through in that area, and that I can then help other people, maybe more people would reach out.
Great. What's your idea of success?
Okay. My idea of success isn't about having loads of money. Obviously, money helps, but my idea of success is being happy. Being able to provide for my family, and being happy and in a stable relationship. You don't need millions and millions of pounds to be happy. I've been to many countries in the world that are not as well off as as you and I are in our respective countries, and I've seen a lot of poverty. So yeah, just being happy. I think happiness is a good measurement of success.
All right, last question. What would you like people to say about you when you're gone?
What would I like people to say about me when I'm gone? Just to not slag me off, I suppose. I don't know. That's a difficult question. That's probably the hardest question. That's probably why you saved that for last, isn't it?
I can see why you would think it's hard, but not everyone does, Will you translate slag you off, what that means? Because that's not American English. That's British English, I think. What's that mean?
So, yeah, it's British slang. So, yeah, just not to speak badly of you.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. Like for me, I would want people to say that I made a difference in their lives. Their lives were better because I existed, you know?
Yeah. So, if you've had a positive impact on people's lives, that's it's a great accolade for somebody to say once you've gone. And I suppose, that's something we can all aspire to. But, I don't know, professional and kind are probably the two key things.
That's a big one for me too. I think that we need more of that, more kindness in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, there you go. Another episode in the books. Thanks for listening. You can learn more about the show and this episode's guest at thepathtooauthenticity.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Every little bit helps. I want to thank the band Punk Rock Opera, whose music you hear throughout the show. Their songs are used with permission from the artist and under a Creative Commons license. If you're so inclined, check out the Patreon community. As soon as I do these interviews, I upload them to Patreon, where the content is only available to patrons and for just a couple bucks a month. I usually post audio content there, exclusive audio content, probably 8 times a month, if not more. And as these new episodes are released, as soon as they're done, they're available to patrons. So sometimes that might be 2 weeks before an episode is released or even longer. Usually it's a few days. Anyway, if you want to support the show, that's a great way to do it. So thanks again for investing your time. It's a big deal to me. Thank you for supporting me and supporting the show. I hope you keep coming back. Be nice.
That's our story. I hope you enjoyed the punk rock opera. We have one last piece of music for you. It goes like this.
Okay, go. You cannot make us. We are the GIA Miami.
generation of self-made bands. We cut our teeth with bloody hands. The rage has instilled in us. Can feed a crowd, give them a rush. Thank you. And good night.